Hey guys, I can't look at the screen right now because, well, actually I can. Let's do this. Let me know how the audio is, guys. I'm trying out my new feed here. Whoopsies. Come on, you. There we go. Insert fogged up lens. Okay, guys, I'm gonna do a planing demo for you. Everybody's tuned in here. Autofocus. Wow, lots of guys. Awesome. Is that even a word? I don't think that's a word. So we're gonna do a little planing demonstration. I know a lot of you guys love to see the hand tools in action in my videos and whatnot. So I'm gonna give you a few little tips on sharpening, how I get my tools sexy, deadly, sharp. So I got my little sharpening station here. I know a lot of you guys watched that video. The plans are available on my website if you want to make yourself a similar one. It's working out beautifully. I love this thing. I got 6 stones set up here. So I start with my diamond stone. I think this is a 140 or a 400 grit Atoma diamond plate. I use this if I have any nicks in my blades. The diamond stone takes the steel off super quick, so I use that to take out nicks, and I also use that. I just pull it off its little base right here, and then I flatten all my stones to keep my stones nice and flat. Now, when you use a rough grit stone like that on your finer grit stones, it will make them more coarse, but after a few strokes, they will go back to their original grit as the stone wears down. So you're not going to make a 16,000 grit stone into a 400 grit just by rubbing it on there. At first it will cut a little quicker, but then it'll go back to 16,000 grit. So you don't need to worry about that. So I don't have any nicks in this blade. It's pretty good polished. I'm just re-truing up the micro bevel on it. So I'm going to skip the 500 and the 1000. I'm going to go right to the 5000. So I keep sharpening my main bevel. I've got a small micro bevel on this Japanese plane blade. You don't need a micro bevel on Japanese plane blades. You don't need a micro bevel on any plane blade. Yeah, I can talk. But it will toughen up your edge a little bit and still allow you to take really fine shavings without tearing out the grain. So the micro bevel, you know, it's kind of a newer technique to the game in the last, I don't know, 7,500 years or something like that. And it really does increase your planing productivity. So I like using a micro bevel. The Japanese do not use micro bevels and they still get amazing results. So it's kind of a personal preference thing. So the trick that I use to maintain that my micro bevel is just consistent and perfect all the way along is I actually tilt, instead of, you can put your blade here and then just tilt it up a tiny little bit and pull back to add a micro bevel. But it's really hard to not rock that thing, especially if you're going freehand, right? So the best way that I've found, and I've gotten good results, is I actually turn the blade perpendicular. In my last video I used a little jig called the sharp skate, and you can use that works really well. But I'm also used to freehanding, so what I'll do is I'll put my bevel down so I can feel it, right? That's my main bevel, and then I just lift it a tiny bit, and I'll just kind of lock my shoulders and my hands at that motion, and I just work it back and forth that way. And that way you're actually going to make sure you have a perfectly straight and flat edge. If you look at your micro bevel and it's not getting an even polish, you'll know that your blade is round a tiny little bit. Hey guys, lots of people tuning in. Awesome to see you all here. So that's the way I, establish, using all these big words, establish my micro bevel. And then I'll take it from the 5,000 to the 12,000, and then from the 12 to the 16,000. That's crazy polished. Blades are a little bit dry here. I don't have my bamboo little dripper set up, but just get some water on these. So I'll establish my main bevel, tilt it up a tiny bit. I just do it freehand. I'm pretty sure I'm at about, 28 degrees on my micro bevel. My main bevel is about 23, 24 degrees, somewhere in there. Then I'll take it to the 16,000. And then I'll just do a few little strokes on the flat side of the blade just to take off any little micro burr that's on the blade. Give it a wipe. What's up, guys? Let me know if you guys pretty good quality. That's good to hear. Yeah, give me lots of feedback on quality. I've just upgraded my internet, and I've got some crazy high-tech little plug-in Ethernet transfer device, majigger, and so I'm working this off Wi-Fi right now. So let me know about the quality. Let me know about the audio if it's staying pretty good. Picture is blurry. Okay, I'm trying to. It should be in 720p. YouTube says it can do 720 and 1080p for uploads, so that's what I've got my camera set at. So it might be the connection is downgrading it, I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out as time goes by. This is just kind of a test video, and I didn't want to just be like, hey, how's the sound quality, and then like leave. So I thought I'd give you a little planing demo. Okay, so I've already sharpened up my Western plane. This bad boy here is the Veritas Jackrabbit. Love this plane, like absolutely love it. It's basically 5 of the most used planes like in one. So you got a plain jack plane, so you can joint surfaces fairly well with it because it's got a longer body. It's also rabbiting to both sides, so you can do rebates inside corners, as well as its low angle. You have to insert the plane blade from the bottom to get it in. And the fine tuning on this plane is just off the charts. So it's got little set screws on either side, 2 sets of set screws. So once you get your blade in there square, right where you want it, you just tighten up the set screws on either side, and then every time you drop your plane blade in, it's perfectly square. So you don't have to worry about your plane blade tilting at all. It's just gorgeous. And then you just adjust the throat opening. You want that to be as small as possible when you're doing finish planing. And then you tighten up this little nubby right here. So I got maybe a strong millimeter or small 1/16 of an inch. Tighten that up. Boom. Okay, drop the wedgie on there. Tighten her up. Now I'm going to do a demo with this. I've got some light or softwood here. This is yellow cedar. Can't read the writing on my shirt. Well, it's a tiny little decal. How are you supposed to read that with a fisheye lens? Come on, man. So let's see what we got for a depth setting here. We biting. A wee bit. It's actually really close to where I want it. Yeah, that's about as thin as they get with a Western blade. A little deeper. So these are pretty fluffy, light and fluffy. Now I find that you can get a pretty thin shaving. It's hard to really register the steel body planes because they're so heavy. So you can still take beautiful shavings. They do really precise work, but they're just not as dialed as the Japanese plane. I don't know if it's the metal body. I'm pretty sure it has to do with the iron body. And the way that you can adjust the Japanese plane blocks to have minimal contact with the wood just allows the blade contact to feel so much more in tune with your body. So I got nothing against Western planes. The push also you lose a little bit of control on the push, but it works. Like, they're phenomenal planes, and as far as versatility, you can't beat this plane. Like, it's rabbiting, it's also low angle, so you can pair end grain with this thing, no problem. And get into all your corners. It's even got these little retractable nicker blades. So if you're cutting across the grain, these little blades, you can drop them down and they will actually shear the grain on either side so you don't tear out the wood as you cut right across the grain. So they've pretty much thought of everything with this. And all you have to do is, if you want a higher angle plane like a 45 degree, you just get a second blade and put a steeper angle on it, and it'll cut just like a bevel down plane. So there's not a lot of drawbacks to this plane. It's just gorgeous. I use it for everything. The other cool features, let me grab the accessories. Should have had these ready. Gosh! Cool thing, it comes with this little fence. Check this out. Maybe it's just blurry because I'm not auto-focusing. I don't know. No. So you got a little fence here that you can screw right on either side of the blade. So you just thread in these nice little stainless rods. And you got a guide fence. Now what this is good for is obviously what you think it's good for. If you're doing rabbits on the edge of a board, you can set your fence. It also, so you can do all different depths, because this thing will slide right, kind of binds a little bit. Come on. Okay, well, binding up on me a little bit. I'm kind of jiggling it. So it'll go within, that looks like about 3/4 of an inch of one side. And then you can always screw a little block of wood on here if you want to do even smaller. And then the nice thing is if you want, you can put different angles. So if you screw a piece of wood that's got an angle on here, then you can put a 45 on there, and it'll keep your blade at a perfect 45 if you got an edge of the board to run along. So you can plane bevels and all different angles. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Love this thing. So I'm going to take the fence off, do a few strokes on a piece of hard maple. Well, I think it's Western big leaf maple. Take a look at that. Supplemental. I don't know what people are talking about. I'll leave the comments to the end, guys. If you want to ask questions or anything like that about specific stuff, I'll try and give you any information I can instead of scrolling through the hundreds of comments that are coming up. The best way to do it is to leave a super chat. So if you make me a small donation, I'll check the super chat page. Any questions and stuff like that, I'll answer those at the end. Give shout outs to all my guys that have been supporting this channel. I greatly appreciate that. If you don't know how to make a super chat, you just click that little speech bubble icon at the bottom of your screen, and it'll walk you through the steps on how to make a donation. You can leave a comment, and that's where you put your question, and then I'll answer those at the end. Okay, guys? So I just got this chunk of Western maple here. I think it's been belt sanded. I'll have to smooth it down a bit. Put a few strokes here. And this low angle blade actually leaves a pretty nice polish on that wood, even on hardwood. Takes some gorgeous shavings. And this plane comes with a couple different types of steel. So you can get this with the A2 tool steel. I'm not a big fan of the A2 tool steel. The new PM V11 steel that this comes with at Lee Valley, gorgeous alloy steel, holds an edge like you wouldn't believe it. It's a much finer edge than the A2. And I find that the A2, when it's gets dull, it just falls apart and you can't even plane with it, whereas this holds an edge quite a bit better. That's about as thin as I can get these shavings. You can pretty much see through them. And now onto the Japanese plane, so you guys can see the difference here. Now I've sharpened this blade, exact same process as my other blade. Wow, super chat, thanks man. Now, in different prefectures in Japan, some people use a wooden mallet, and I've seen some people use a small steel hammer. Everybody says don't use a small steel hammer, but I've seen different people in Japan use steel, some use a wooden mallet. you get a little bit more, it's easier to adjust, I find, with a steel hammer, but it does kind of mushroom the edge of the blade a hair. So the way that these blades are set in the block is it's just wedged in there. Now the Japanese blades, when they forge them, they're tapered. So the blade's getting thicker at this end and down towards that. So as the blade goes into the die, which is the wood block, it wedges itself in there. So you have to really, when you get these brand new, the blades are never set right into the throat. You have to actually do that by hand, just by finely shaving down the wood till the blade seats in there perfectly with a couple taps of a hammer. So when you buy a Japanese hand plane, it requires a lot of skill and fine tuning to get this thing working properly. So you have to be a bit of a craftsman already if you want to buy a plane. It's not going to cut shavings right out of the box. You have to really know how to fine tune it. And there's a bit of a process to that I can go into in a later video. So I get my blade really close with the wood mallet, and then I do a bit of fine tuning with the little Japanese hammer. And you just run your eye along the bottom of the sole until you just see like just a fraction of the blade come out, and then she's ready to go. Let's see what we do. A little bit more. Oh, way too thick. And then if you want to release the blade a little bit, you just tap the back corner of the die right here. There we go. The shavings that this blade takes is just, you can hear the difference. It just sings through the wood. I could sit here for hours and just, snort shavings. Oh, so smelly. This is my addiction right here. Yellow cedar, it's my crack cocaine. Oh, it smells so good. So you can see that the shavings are just, you see right through them. They're just gorgeous. And right to the edge, perfect clean cut. There's nothing missing in that shaving. So that's just the difference between the Japanese plane. When you touch the wood, it feels like glass after. As you've probably seen in other videos where I've shown a bit of you can see like a reflection on the wood. Oh, the resolution is garbage in this video. I'm gonna have to work on that. Sorry guys. But that's the difference. Now, the reason why these planes can get just such gorgeous shavings is because the wood block right here, you relieve the wood so that this part of the block actually isn't touching except for the last tiny little bit. You relieve this a hair, just a fraction, like 2 pieces of paper. And then there's about a 1/2 inch right in front of the blade that's flat, that comes in contact with the wood. And then you relieve this whole bit except for a 1/2 inch right in the front here. So this has got just a very slight concave to it, about 2 thicknesses of a piece of paper. And that way only this part, and a tiny little bit right here is actually touching the wood as you shave. So the blade, you don't have any friction or anything building up here. So it just allows you to really feel the blade bite into the wood, and it's like a spiritual experience. I can't explain it any other way. So you can just hear it in the video. It's like, glorious. And you can keep tapping the blade and get even thinner shavings than this, but it's just, I know that's probably not good for me. Yellow cedar is actually full of toxins and like natural insecticides. And I know the sawdust will give you cancer, but whatever. It takes a few years of my life. It's worth it. So let's try it on the maple now. See how it does there. Now, typically Japanese homes are built with softwood, hinoki, which is like the Japanese cedar or cypress they call it, and so their blades are made to cut softwood. Now, they also make plain blades that are specifically designed for really hard woods, but you can also just adjust your bevel angle, because ultimately the steel in Japanese blades is hardened to a higher Rockwell hardness scale. So a typical plain blade like this PM V11 alloy tool steel that's with the Veritas, I think it's like an RC scale 58 or something like that, whereas the RC scale on a Japanese blade will probably be like 61 to 63 sometimes, so a bit harder steel. So all you have to do if you want a plain hardwood is just adjust your bevels to be a little bit, not quite so fine, and your edge will last just as long, if not longer, with these working on hardwoods as well. And the shavings aren't quite as transparent, just because that's more the cell structure of the hardwood is just different than that of the softwoods. But still takes gorgeous shavings on maple. I think you can see through them too as well. So if you're into it, if you got the time and you really just appreciate the art that goes into making hand tools, I highly recommend getting at least one 70 mil Japanese hand plane. There's just nothing like it. So I can't explain it any other way. But they take, you got to pay a lot of attention to fine tuning them. You will have to adjust the blocks as the years go by. You can't leave them in a damp place or anything like that, because the blocks will twist or swell and can even crack your blade or rust your blade around the edges. So, a lot of times I don't store my blade in my block. If I'm not using it over the winter, I'll take the blade out, wrap it in like cloth with oil, and then store the block in a dry space as well. So there's just more maintenance involved, whereas with one of these, you keep some oil on it, and that'll prevent the rust, and they're pretty much bomb-proof unless you're throwing it around, right? So less maintenance, a little more versatile, but just you don't get the same experience with a Western plane that you do with the Japanese. So I highly recommend having at least one. So that's your demo, a little bit of sharpening, a little bit of planing. Now I'm just starting to jibber jabber, so let's check over at the super chats and see what we got. Any of my homies over here. All right. A whole bunch here. Wow, thanks guys. James Madden, appreciate it. Patrick, whoa, big money. Thank you, brother. Will Hall, big shout out. No questions, guys? Come on. You guys are paying big money. You can ask me whatever you like. Drew Donnelly, thank you so much. I will keep on rocking. KR Broadbent, $5, thanks man. Patrick, you're the man. Thank you for bringing quality back to woodworking. Hey man, I'm doing what I can. I got to keep this craft alive, Not a polite Canadian, well neither am I, so I appreciate that, man. Huge donations, thanks so much guys. Whoops, forgot to ask. Cheers from Victoria. Saanich, my brother. Yeah, it was snowing here today. We got a couple of inches. Freaking screwed my day over. I couldn't do my siding. I had to sit inside and run a bunch of errands, all that nonsense. Just wanted to work on the wood, but it was snowing all day, so I ain't gonna take my tools out in the snow and get them all wet and rusty. It's crappy. So, Nathan B, thanks so much, brother. He says the cost. Now, yeah, that's the other thing. Finding a place to buy Japanese planes is super tricky, right? Because they don't stock them in any of the stores here, and if they do, they're really cheap ones. I have found, I'll leave a link in the description box once this video goes onto my channel page of a couple different places. There's a few online places. There's a store called Hida Tool, H-I-D-A Tool. They're a store in Berkeley, California, I believe. They run by an awesome Japanese man, and I think his nieces work for him. It's kind of a family business. They bring in Japanese tools from Japan, and they're really awesome to work with. They'll call and ship, and they just take really good care of you. They carry a lot of nice planes. Another place, if you want even like more super high quality, like absolute pieces of art, you almost don't want to use them. They're so beautifully made. That's an online store called IDA Tool. That's IIDA Tool. If you just Google it, it'll pop up, and you can look at the blades. They're just speechless kind of beauty. And they're gonna run you, if you want a really good one, you're looking at $350, $400 plus for a pretty good quality one. And they can go right up to $1,000 a plane made by like the master smiths in Japan, like the absolute elite craftsmen. Their planes, they'll hand tap Japanese poems on the backs of their blades, and it's like a spiritual thing, and they're absolute artwork, just the finest quality you've ever seen. So those blades can run really expensive, and the wider the blade, you can get Japanese planes that are like a foot wide. And those ones will cost you anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, depending on who makes it. So they are, you can't just stock your toolbox full of Japanese planes unless you're like a retired doctor or something. So that's why I say it's good to have just one, at least one, save your money and have one just for the joy of being able to use it in certain applications, right? And then a plane like this is actually one of the most expensive, Western style planes I've seen on the market. And I think it runs about 370 Canadian pesos, as my brother AVE would say. So if you upgrade to the PM11 blade, I think it's like, 390 or something like that. So after taxes, you're looking at $400 with this thing. But it does the work of like 5 different planes. So to me, that's worth it, as opposed to buying like a jointer plane or a jack plane and a bench plane and a block plane. You can just do it all with this. So in a way, it's saving you a lot of money, but still an expensive tool. Anytime you get into the quality of Veritas or a Japanese handmade tool, you're going to spend some serious coin. But if you're doing it for a living, you can justify the investment. But if you're just a hobbyist, I understand why people stick with the old Stanleys and stuff you can get at swap meets and stuff like that. And they work really well too. The steel's not quite as good, and they're not quite as fine-tuned, but you clean up the old Stanleys, especially the old Bailey Stanleys, and they're still gorgeous planes. They do gorgeous work. I got nothing against the old stuff too. I love restoring old tools. So any other questions, man? I'm such a long-winded brother. I could just keep going on. What manufacturer do you recommend for both Western and Japanese planes? Will you ever sell planes on your website? And will you sell products through Amazon so Canadians can buy your tools? I wish I could sell stuff through the Canadian Amazon, but it's just, Canadian Amazon sucks. The prices are stupid. You can't get nearly as many products. They don't even stock hardly any of the products that I use. So that's why I've set up my Amazon store in the US, because the majority of my audience is in the US, and there's just way better pricing and way more options and tools that I actually use. I can find them at Amazon.com. So that's the way I've set it up. I know it sucks for my Canadian brothers, but that's why I'm starting to stock tools myself, like the Japanese hand saws. I actually order those directly from Japan and stock those now, so I can ship anywhere in the world, in Canada and all those different places. So I'm pretty sure the only place you can get Veritas tools is through Lee Valley's online or their actual stores. I'm not sure if they sell these to any other retailers. So you can find those at leevalley.com. And the Japanese hand planes, I'll let you in on a little plan of mine. I was actually planning to go this spring, but it's not really going to work out. I got way too much work on the go and I can't afford it. I want to plan a trip to Japan. So me and my buddy Dan, who actually lived in Japan, his wife's Japanese, and they both speak fluent Japanese. Him and I are planning a trip to go to Japan for this yearly conference called the Kazurokai Planing Conference, where all the best carpenters, all the carpenters in Japan gather for like this annual thing, which they're actually starting to do it in North America too. And they get together and it's like a big fair, like a home show kind of a thing, but just woodworking, all tools and just gorgeous craftsmanship and demonstrations. And it's this huge conference. They do it once a year and they all get together and they have a huge competition to see who can take the thinnest shaving off a piece of wood. And so all the carpenters bring their tools and they're all sharpening. It's like something out of a movie. It's pornography for woodworkers, I'll tell you that. And I've been dying to go for years. And so it's going to happen next year. I'm planning a trip. And obviously I'm taking you guys along for the ride. We'll be doing live shows and all sorts of video footage, visiting temples, and it'll just be a woodworker's dream trip. And I'm going to make as many videos and just get you guys involved in as many ways as I can. And I'm hoping to make a few contacts while I'm there where I can source tools direct from Japan. And if my buddy who speaks fluent Japanese, he'll be able to translate. We can talk and make connections with hopefully a bunch of tool manufacturers at that conference, you know, for Japanese saws, maybe the traditional handmade ones, and planes and chisels and all sorts of stuff, because I do want to start stocking that stuff on my store and just making it more readily available to us brothers in the North America. Yeah, going live is tricky, you know. You just all of a sudden become an idiot and can't fix your words properly. So yeah, I want to make these tools as available. I've had to search for years and scour eBay and all that sort of stuff to find these tools, and sometimes it's hit or miss. So I do want to make them more readily available, and there are some stores. I'll leave those linked below. But yeah, I'd love to get my own chisels going and my own planes and make connections. So that's coming down the pipe, but it's probably going to be at least a year from now. So, any other questions, guys? Let her rip. What do we got here? Taking off. Thanks so much, Terry. Appreciate that. All right, so that's pretty much it for my super chats. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I appreciate that. I'm going to try and shoot out more emails when these live videos come, but I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. I'm like, hey, let's do a live video right now, and I don't have time to shoot out an email. But I will be doing another live video on Sunday. That's March the 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. A few brothers have been talking to me about just issues in life, addiction to pornography, depression, and you know, how to be a good father, all those kinds of issues, stuff that I'm dealing with and have dealt with in the past. And you know, I've got a story to tell, so I want to be able to encourage guys in whatever way that I can, you know, guys that are struggling in life. So I'm going to be doing like, we're going spiritual kind of talk, and I'm just going to share my testimony and how I've been able to overcome certain hurdles in life and get to where I'm at. So if you're interested at all, just to hear kind of a different take, different perspective on life, you're not offended or freaked out by, you know, talking about spirituality or morality and that sort of stuff, I highly recommend you tune in. So that'll be Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, March the 5th. So until then, guys, time out.